things that has been proven. And the Florida State Supreme Court does disagree with that stance that there won't be a vote on everything. The court plainly indicates that Amendment 4 would trigger votes not simply on all land use items, but in fact on every change to the local government's comprehensive plan. And that is a real problem because the comprehensive plan needs to be updated. If you leave the comprehensive plan in place, some of the smaller counties in the state haven't updated and don't have the resources to really play with it. And this is where you come to encouraging the piecemeal sprawl. As the Friends of 1000, Friends of Florida 1000 have said, and a very pro-environmental group have said, the structure that's in place needs to be amended and adjusted from time to time. Otherwise, you'll have sprawl going on in lands that are zoned correctly for land use that don't need to be changed, or lands that do need to be changed that can't be changed because the reason why the companies won't wait around for the changes. For instance, and what I mean by the companies that won't wait around for the changes, the Mayo Clinic would not be in Jacksonville if this amendment had been passed. The wealthy family that donated that land to the Mayo Clinic years ago that needed the land use change in order for them to zone to put up their internationally famous hospital. The Mayo Clinic would not have waited around to go through the proper channels through the city council, get it approved, and then wait around for a vote of the general body. Now the general body then will turn around, and we carry around different campaigns in different counties. I have a Leon County ballot from 2006 that would have had 97 ballot issues on it. We have a very smart voter education, voter population out there. But to read 97 land use amendments, which are summarized from 6- and 7-page legal documents down to 75 words, confuses me, and I've been in the industry for 30 years. It was a very difficult thing to conceptually figure out and to get an accurate vote on. Estimated ballot time has gone from as much as 15 minutes up to 3 hours and 15 minutes into the election, which would then cost elections to spill over, getting more costly. And who pays for it? The taxpayer.
Chuck, very quickly, if I could ask you just in a minute or so to comment quickly on the economic impact and the job figures that we put out, and then we're going to turn the floor over to Janet for rebuttals.
Absolutely. The Washington Economics Group put out a recent study, of course, and it was hired by Florida 20, in order to estimate what the job loss would be in the current unemployment situation. You know, Florida's unemployment sits at 11.7%. They're estimated to lose almost another 300,000 construction jobs related. And Mayo Clinic is just one example, Doug, that these companies will not come, they will not go through the process. They'll go to Alabama, North Carolina, etc. Development will slow to a crawl, thereby the residences and won't get the services that they need in order to suffice in having a nice little community. And finally, I'd like to say real quickly that the amendment, whereas there's always things that could be done better, Doug, but this amendment also says that if you want a land use change for a police station or a fire station or an extension of a roadway or even a hospital, Baptist South may not have built their new hospital down in the Flagler Center at I-95 and St. Augustine Road because they needed a land use change, and they wouldn't have built it in that spot. They would have had to gone through the popular election process. These companies won't get involved in spending money on general elections to educate the population. They'll go someplace else.
Okay, understood. All right. Well, thank you for that summary. And now flipping the coin and going to the other side, we have an overhead that we're going to put up around that's called "In Support of Amendment 4" that talks about some of the bullet points that the proponents frequently mention. And they involve things like giving voters a seat at the table, giving the voters veto power, making sure the developers play by the rules, talking about the amount of money that local governments have to spend for growth, a claim that growth is $2.45 for every dollar raised in taxes, and that existing residents have to pay for additional municipal services when there is overbuilding. So, Janet, with that as a backdrop, feel free to expand on any of those topics or add your own. Why should voters be in favor of Amendment 4?
Well, you know, there's a lot you can talk about growth management and bad development, and we certainly have a lot of poster children throughout Florida and in Northeast Florida. But it's a very simple concept. As you have here, it gives voters a seat at the table after our elected officials say yes. And that's the problem. They always say yes. They do not exercise discrimination because the folks who are asking for the land use changes are typically developers. And to keep it simple, the question I pose to the audience, and to folks I talk to is, who do you trust? Do you trust yourself and your neighbors to make the final decisions on development-related land use changes? Or do you trust the politicians who are backed by developers? Maybe not too many people in the audience envision themselves as being in a position to have a strip mall move in close to them. But one of the frequent scenarios we have in today's market, where it's perceived that residential development has crashed worse than commercial, is many residential parcels of land are being designated for commercial. So folks who believed that they lived in a certain kind of area suddenly find themselves very near to a strip mall or a multiple-story office building. And there's an example in Mandarin, parcels surrounded on 3 sides by residential, 4th side was commercial, and despite pleas by the residents, it was approved to build a strip center and an office building, and now people have an office building in their backyard. And in the process, their property values have gone down. So Amendment 4 just lets voters vote at the end of the process after the elected officials have said yes. If they've made a good decision, then voters will likely say yes. Okay. It forces developers to play by the rules of our land use plan. And I'd like to say a little bit about the growth costs. The bullet that you had that says growth costs $2.45 for every dollar raised in taxes. This is powerful information. It was a local study done here in Jacksonville. Although there's been many studies throughout Florida, all of them had the same result, that residential development reaches into the pockets of the existing residents to pay for roads, schools, electric and water services, libraries, parks, when our own existing neighborhoods may need roads, schools, libraries, parks. I mean, we're seeing library hours cut back. Road congestion is a sign of bad growth management decisions because roads have not kept up. But our property values are going down and taxes are going up because of inappropriate and overdevelopment, inappropriate land use decisions and overdevelopment. My last item that I'd like to talk about is the number of things that we would have to vote on. Amendment 4, as the language you have, shows that people only vote on land use changes. It's a finite number of votes. It's not zoning, not variances, and so when we hear people talk about huge numbers and huge ballots, a lot of times they're confused about the difference between a land use change and a zoning change. And Amendment 4 was intentionally designed to only apply to land use changes.
Okay, great. Well, thank you very much for that summary. Phil, it's quite an interesting rundown for each side. We could obviously take several shows going through all of this. We are going to come back to that issue in a second, but I know that you wanted to take a moment during the broadcast to talk about some of the upcoming events that the Libertarian Party has going on here. So why don't I go ahead and let you do that?
Well, I want to let everybody know we're still having our Duval County meeting every third Thursday at 6:30, well actually 6 to 6:30 p.m. In July, it will be at the Golden Corral. However, in August, we're going to meet at the Piccadilly at Lane and Ramona because we're going to have a special guest giving a presentation. He's from FIJA, which is the Fully Informed Jury Association. So please mark your calendars. We don't want people showing up to the Golden Corral in August. You'll be very disappointed. Also want to bring up something. I just found this when I was at the gas station. This thing is called the Jacksonville Liberty Journal, and Libertarian Party is going to look more into this. We like the idea of people writing news from a liberty point of view. I need to read this. Hopefully it is a liberty point of view. So keep an eye out for that.
Well, the headline is certainly grabbing. It says, Mayor unable to produce a financially sound budget. Unfortunately, that shouldn't be a surprise to anybody who's paying attention. That sounds like a whole other topic for a show in its own right. And again, I'll take the opportunity while we're taking a little bit of a break here to mention that we do appreciate you tuning into our broadcast. You can look for the Libertarian Perspective pretty much every Wednesday at 7 o'clock on the Comcast Community Access channel.